when I was up in Queensland with my father, he's really into iridology, and he was having a look at my eyes one night, and he said to me that there was something in there. It was like a black spot, dark brown, and it actually had like little arms growing out of it. They're like, it kind of looks like a little paw or something like that.
We call it a bush.
Yeah. Well, they were just sort of like that. They weren't fully extended, but they were just sort of growing outside of this thing. There was about 4 coming out. And knowing that, you know, the green pawpaw, the papain in that has, it actually sort of deteriorates or eats away at cancerous tissues. I was on pawpaws 2 or 3 times a day, green pawpaws, and I noticed that the actual arms came back into the spot.
We call that nubbing off. Okay.
Yeah, they like sort of closed up and moved back in to the actual spot. And the spot in my eye has gone from a very dark colour, and it's just a very light brown now. It's barely sort of there.
It's gone from black and brown to very light brown.
And the actual colour of my iris used to be like a deep hazel colour. They were sort of nearly brown. Now, since I've been on a raw food diet, they've gone from deep hazel to a sort of to green with a bit of bits of brown in it. And Doug was telling me before, and they're now a kind of greyish blue colour.
We've had some marvelous reconstruction here. And first of all, I'd like to have Michael take, he's had a couple of operations here. He's had herniated discs removed in his neck, which of course made it almost impossible for him to move his neck without pain. So first of all, I'd like to have Michael twist his neck back and forth and see what's going on. Take your neck like this. And back. Now go like this. Go the other way. You weren't able to do that. Tell everybody what's going on with you. Okay. We're just going to take one massive trauma at a time. I'd like to have Michael just talk about the neck situation.
Okay, the neck. It feels really good. There's a big calcification on the right-hand side that's been growing for ages, and that's reduced to practically nothing and almost no pain. Sorry. What else? Well, there was pain everywhere, particularly up the top at the atlas and axis, and down the bottom where the bones were fused. There was limited movement, lots of headaches.
One thing, stand up, sir. Yeah. Now, one thing you couldn't do with the fusion there is back up and down. Want to give it a try?
Down.
Down?
That's amazing.
Tell them how it was.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't put my head down at all. Not at all.
Say it again so everybody can hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't put my head down at all without having excruciating pain at the back there.
How many years?
14 years.
How many?
14.
14 years.
Yeah. And going back's the same. Feels completely different.
Okay. Now, remember how when you bend over to touch your toes?
Not very often.
How was the pain?
Well, I stopped doing that a long time ago, so I don't know what it was like.
Now, he did nothing but boiling, searing, burning, molten lava pain there for about 3 hours. Now, I just want Michael just to slowly bend over. He has a brand new back there now, new hips, new legs. Just bend over and touch the floor. It's as simple as that. He hasn't done that for a number of years.
It's a bit stiff, but there's no pain. It's great. Bit of pain there. Still some work to do, but that is fantastic. It really is. Thank you.
Now, how about squats? Could you go down to a squat before?
I could get down there, but not back up.
Okay. Now, the proof of the pudding is you do a squat.
Here I go. Cinch.
the back of her hair is just getting darker by the minute, and it looks to me like it's starting to get kind of dark here in the front as well. You know, the front's getting to where it's about where the back used to be 20 minutes ago, and the back is, you know, it's the gray is definitely in the minority now, and then vanishing fast from there.
Now remember, yesterday Vignes had a hard time walking. She was somewhat bent over because her muscles were weak and she couldn't hold herself up properly and had a real struggle. And if you remember, for the new people, we worked on her point holding and using the point holding to restore nerve supply and circulation to the body, which I might add is still there. But I'd like her to tell the rest of the story now.
Thank you. Yesterday, as soon as I was leaving here, everybody asked me how I felt. Oh, yes, the same, nothing much, I couldn't find anything. But today, when I got up, I had a good sleep, and when I got up,
Could you speak a little louder into the mic, please? There we go.
I didn't feel anything much, but till I started to go and brush my teeth, I thought, oh, I'm standing upright and brushing my teeth. I was stood down. So that was one. So then I went, and when I got up, started getting ready, and I put on my saris. And usually, of course, when you put on a sari, you have to stand upright and put the sari on. But these days I don't. I have to lean against the wall or lean against something. But today I found I was able to stand upright and started to put on my sari. That was a great, great thing. I was so excited. And my friend was there, and she went to saw she's not there, she went back again. She went on to pick me in time. Then I found, God, I'm already past time. Hurry, get up. And started to get ready, and here I am. But I got lots of more space to improve, but I'm improving. Thank you very much.
I had a bad fall 14 years ago. I didn't want to jump. I jumped from a cliff down to a beach, and I didn't see a big stone that was half covered with sand, and I hit the side of my foot on the side of the stone, and I was just completely, every part of the bone and heel was out of joint, and I think the ligaments were out. And I waited 2 days before I got to a hospital, and they x-rayed and saw there was a hair crack, and I had it in plaster, and then I still couldn't walk. I had a practitioner for 6 months. He put every little bone back in place, but I still had pain in the heel, and it was always swollen. And then 4 years later I got to Denmark, and I couldn't walk there because the cobblestones were, the streets are very, so my friends told me to see a very famous osteopath there, and he x-rayed and saw my heel bone was cracked, but it was too late. I was 63 then, and it was too late to do anything. So he instructed me to wear shoes with a heel, and from then on I could walk better. But it's always been swollen and painful. If I'm too much on my feet, I can't stand on it. So, and then I had a fall 2 weeks ago in Coles. I slipped. Oh, I had a hip replacement on that 2 years ago, on the same side. And then I had to fall in Coles. I slipped on a piece of lettuce and fell flat on my back. I hit the base of my spine and the top of my head. And then I also had pain, very bad pain in my knees and legs. I couldn't walk again. And from that, Christina suggested I seek treatment.
How long had you been walking with a cane then?
I walked first with crutches for a couple of years, and then a cane until I could let go of the cane after I saw the doctor in. But I still had the cane for the pain when I always walked with it.
And were you able to place your foot flat on the floor?
No. No.
How long since you've been able to do that?
It was January 82.
Okay, so about 13 years there.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, by working on the foot for, I guess, roughly 45 minutes or so, where I started with the thumb and then eventually used a forearm and, worked in different areas. When you hold points on something, you never press harder than the person can lovingly and willingly endure. You're eliciting the pain that's locked in there. And so we did this on various points along the outside of her foot there. And gradually throughout this session, she was able to handle, more pressure. We moved around to some different points. There were a couple times there where there were actual cracks and snaps as different bones went back to place. And you'll remember this eventually. This is before Christina came, but I can assure you there were at least a couple of times where I could hear little were actually fairly big cracks and snaps as different bones were shifting back into place. And there was a tremendous amount of motion in the foot, because I was, holding it with either a thumb or a forearm, but I was also, bracing the foot with my other hand. So I had contact over a lot of the foot, and the bones were just moving all over the place. But she told me first that her foot was getting warm, and then eventually it was burning. Then her whole body was burning, and then she basically started getting tremendous vibration through her whole body. And this was all just what she was reporting to me without any, leading questions on my part or any reason to think she'd feel such things. Tremendous burning and then vibration in the body. And basically at the end of about 45 minutes or so, there really wasn't any pain to speak of in the foot. I mean, I could pretty much press as hard as I wanted all over it, and the foot was really in pretty good shape there.
She's always had to have this built-up shoes. Even at home when she wears her slippers, she always has to have at least this built-up in the heel. She cannot put her foot flat, and so she walked around the room and she walked up and down totally flat, and there was no pain or discomfort, and she wasn't limping at all.
I feel I have released I held a lot of suppressed feelings in that foot, and that has been released now.
To whom it may concern, it concerns so many. When we met Dr. John Whitman Ray, my wife Betty Ann had leukemia and had suffered a heart attack, and also had a massive stomach cancer. I continually give thanks for Dr. Ray and his body electronics, as my wife is now free of all the above-mentioned problems. She is now better than ever before, vital, mentally and physically. I thank Dr. Ray for giving back her life to Betty Ann, and for my brand new wife. No drugs, no surgery. Reg Campbell.
A week ago, last Friday here, I was holding Dorothy's pancreas points, and I experienced extreme burning. I thought really no one else could have this quite this much. And I was really having a very rough time when some very kind lady came and put her hand on my shoulder, and I managed to get through. I felt the heat come through my thumbs, up my arms, down across my shoulders, down through my body, and there was an almighty whoosh of hot air through the vaginal orifice and actually burnt the insides of both my thighs. Now, it didn't quite blister, but it was very, very close. Okay, that's that. A week later, Friday to the day, point holding group at Madrabar, I was holding Elaine's adrenal points when I had extreme heat through my right thumb. After a while, my right arm was vibrating violently. I just could not control it. And I thought there was something wrong with Elaine. End of point holding, eventually. And I didn't take really any notice of any of this until this morning in the shower. I observed that I now do not have a hysterectomy abdominal scar, all gone. And that is